Progress is pain. This was actually a rule years ago in my classroom, though it was written a little bit differently. It was written, no growth occurs without pain, but really if we're talking about this, we're talking about the same thing. That progress, that moving forward, is by its very nature painful and difficult. That there will be hurdles and inhibitions that you have to scramble over, that you have to deal with, and sometimes things that you have to fight. This notion originally came from a story, one that was encapsulated in a manga that I read when I was younger. The idea was that this character was going to inflict massive pain upon the entire world with the express purpose and goal of helping the world to grow up and to mature. Now, that's pretty metal, and also a very anime manga type of thing to do. But when I thought about it over the years, and this has been the case with a lot of stories, a lot of anime and manga and video game things that I fell in love with as a youth, as I stretched into adulthood and started to pull those stories apart more, I realized that there's some truth in some of them. Some of them I look back at, and it's Brandon Sanderson calls this being visited by the suck fairy, which is that things that you loved when you were younger turn out to not be that great when you go back as an adult. But there are a lot of things that I go back and I look at, and they really are pretty fantastic once I start looking at them as an adult. And this idea is one of those. The idea that no growth occurs without pain. And it's a difficult thing to wrap your head around. It seems very negative right off the bat. It doesn't seem happy at first, the notion that the only thing we can depend on is that pain is adjacent to progress. Like death and taxes, it is always reliable. No, it does seem like a bitter pill to swallow. But the reality is that it's also lovely and simple. You can expect pain when you are progressing. In fact, you can often use it as a benchmark for if you are growing, if you are moving forward. We know this rather instinctively when it comes to most things in life. If you are trying to move forward in your career, you're looking for new jobs, there's probably some discomfort at the current job that you're working at. That process is painful. It is terribly uncomfortable to put yourself on the line to find a new job, to find a new place to live, to move halfway across the country. These things are uncomfortable. And yet, intrinsic in all of them is some semblance of forward momentum, of growth. And that's the thing here, and perhaps it's my more pessimistic nature, but the reality of this situation is almost relaxing to me. Because I know that when I engage in something new, if I try gouache for the first time, if I try a new medium, if I try making videos on YouTube, I expect the pain. There's always a little teeny piece of me that is more optimistic, that expects things might go well, that there might be an escape from this universal constant. But of course, that is almost never the case. And when it is, it always feels like I'm waiting for the second shoe to fall. I'm not sure if that's actually how the phrase goes, but I lost all of my phrases when I hit my 30s. And so, yeah, things just combine, and my wife usually just laughs at it. But I find a soothing component to this, that I can rely on anything new being a little bit difficult, a little bit painful. And in a way, you can almost turn that to the same way that you would reflect upon working out or trying a new physical activity. If you're getting to the gym for the first time in ages, or maybe the first time ever, and you're working out, you're lifting, you're running, you're working on the climbing wall, the rowing machine, oh goodness, the rowing machine. The next day, things hurt. Your muscles are sore. Maybe you didn't sleep as well because you couldn't find a position on the bed that was actually comfortable. And that's not fun. That's again, a bitter pill to swallow. But the more you move down that path, the more you understand that the pain is indicative of growth. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to enjoy the pain. That's perhaps its own problem. But you can enjoy the fact that the pain means that things are happening, that you are growing, that you are moving forward, that progress is being made. And that's really the whole point of this rule from my classroom in ages past, is the fact that you can count on pain when you try something new. And you can count on pain when you are growing, when you are progressing. In fact, you can look for it and understand that if it's there, then you can find some solace in the fact that you are growing, that you are moving forward. This is perhaps a strange way to look at things, but the reality is, as we get older, that most of life carries some small portion of pain. And it's generally not bad. I mean, of course, sometimes it is. Injuries are terrible. Losing a loved one is terrible. I just had to fly across the country for a funeral, and it's never fun. It's not an enjoyable thing, but it's more frequent the older you get. And often, if you are at a funeral and you are celebrating the life of a person that you loved, a person who had an impact on many people, it is sad. And why is it sad? It's sad because that person is now departed from you. If you went to a funeral and you felt nothing, then it would be a little sad because it would indicate that that person didn't have much of an impact on you or an impact on the crowd. And that happens, and it's a really terribly uncomfortable thing to be a part of. But when you are parted from someone who had a positive impact on you, that pain is reminiscent of and indicative of the impact they had on your life. And whilst that's not exactly the same as the pain in progress, it is cut from the same cloth, I suppose, that it is indicative of a good thing in spite of the negative aspects. So when you are working on new things, when you're trying new mediums, or you're trying a new artistic venture, maybe you're trying to make a YouTube channel, maybe you're branching out and trying to get into a local gallery, you're trying to sell your artwork for the first time, you're finally pursuing professional art, even though it's been in the back of your mind for ages, and that is uncomfortable. But you can come to expect that. You can understand that it will be there and you can prepare for it. You can brace against it, as it were, or you can find a way to relish in it, to understand that, yes, this is painful. The fact that my videos aren't getting views, the fact that no one's buying my pieces at the gallery, the fact that nobody likes my stuff on Instagram, or the fact that everyone around me is teasing me a little bit about my artwork. None of those things are positive. But there is a positive aspect, and that is the pain comes from the fact that you are working towards something new, that you have embarked on a new journey. And just like embarking on a real journey in real life, going on a long hike or going on a cross-country travel, the whole thing is not pleasant. And you can understand that, you can brace for it, and it cannot surprise you then. You can find ways to enjoy the fact that, yeah, this is uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable because it's new. And because it's new, it carries with it excitement and the potential for beautiful things and unexpected lovely things. So much of our outlook in life is determined by the perspective that we take. And one of the weirdest things that I've come to realize as I've gotten older is we have control. Limited sometimes, perhaps, but we do have control over our perspective. So we can shift that. We can decide to look at things in a more positive light, to understand that this pain that we are experiencing right now is further evidence of our sustained growth and our forward progress and momentum. Now, that might be a little bit hard to swallow. It might be a hard thing to wrap your head around, especially in the moment. But I feel like most of our reflection doesn't happen in the moment. Most of it happens after the fact. So after the fact, reflect. Think back right now to some of the things that you've done recently artistically, things that have felt bad, that you've had a negative taste in your mouth when you walked away from. And try to ascertain what growth might have been occurring there. Because if we have to sit there with the pain, if we have to endure that pessimism and that negativity, we might as well understand that there is something positive with it. Again, when it comes to working out, if you just got to the next day and went, my shoulders hurt, this is terrible, that's a net negative. But if you're able to also frame that in but that is my body growing, that is my body building new muscle, repairing old muscle fibers that have been torn, then there's a reason for it. And I think maybe that's what this comes down to at the end of the day, is just pain without purpose is awful, and we hate it. But if you can look at the pain, inevitable as it may be, and understand that there's purpose in it, it takes a little bit of its sting away. It makes it a little bit more natural. It makes you feel less like you're out on the fringes and more like you're just one more human, one more artist, if those are, in fact, the same thing, working towards something new, working toward progress. Well, this sketchbook session was actually going to be a podcast, and instead of scripting it out, I decided that it might be better to ramble, as it were. I did actually start scripting it, and it didn't really go much of anywhere, and I decided after a few minutes, this is probably just a better sketchbook session ramble, so I decided to put it here instead. I hope that it has been beneficial for you. I hope that you're working on something as you watch me create this first thing in sketchbook sessions in months that hasn't been Inktober related. I love this sketchbook, by the way. It is by far my favorite, though it's going to take forever to finish. The sketchbook tour for this one's going to be, probably still months down the line, because I think it's 50 or 60, no, maybe 70 pages, and the thickness of them allows me to work on both sides, which I don't normally do. That means that if I'm correct on the number of pages, that's 140 pages worth of drawings. So I will probably do a sketchbook tour on this one when I hit like a halfway point, because that will still be a ton of drawings to go through. If I did one for the entire sketchbook once I finish, it'd probably be half an hour long, and that would be a little bit long for most people. So, as always, thanks for listening. I hope this was beneficial for you. If you're interested in supporting the channel, we have a Patreon now, and you can find the link below and in the description of this channel itself. And if you'd like to work with some other artists and join a blossoming artistic community, feel free to jump in the Discord. The description for that will be in the comments below as well. It's pretty new right now, but it's lovely to see people sharing their artwork, and I have weekly drawing prompts that we can work on together. Have a good one, y'all. See you soon.